everyone, Joel Miller here with Rhyme Signatures, the nerdiest music review this side of making questionable moral decisions during the fungal apocalypse. And today, we're going to be doing a review of the new Redemption album. I Am the Storm.
I see you, all I want, and it's all said and done. Instead you see me.
It feels like it's been a long time since we last had a Redemption album, and it turns out it's not just a feeling. It's been a good long 5 years since we last pressed play on Long Night's Journey into Day for the first time. And we finally get a chance to see if the most recent lineup changes to the band have been a change for the better or the worse. You see, I'll make no secret of it, I found that Long Night's Journey into Day was amongst one of the weaker of Redemption's discography for me. Although not quite so polarising as 2011's This Mortal Coil, it still left me with a feeling of a cold disconnection. A large part of that can be attributed to the departure of Ray Alder and the introduction of Tom England on vocal duties. Now, I've always been an Alder stan, and I will forever associate his powerful pipes as being the definitive identity of Redemption. I mean, sure, okay, Fate's Warning will also forever be Alder, but he can be two things at once, dang it. But yes, Redemption were one of my earlier introductions into the hedonistic world of progressive metal. I distinctly remember an old chat room friend of mine switching me on to the band by directing me to The Fullness of Time, and that remains one of the finest examples of early 2000s progressive metal ever made. It was the perfect blend of ballsy heaviness, quirky dynamics, and heartfelt emotive lyricism and vocal delivery to make me realise that this was swiftly becoming my genre of choice. The 3-album run of The Fullness of Time, The Origins of Ruin, and Snowfall on Judgment Day remains one of my all-time favourite triple-hit combos, and it felt like the band were destined to join my pantheon of bands that can do no wrong. Then, sadly, This Mortal Coil happened, and I rather felt that the band had entered their stumbling phase. The Art of Lost picked things back up a little bit, but there was still something, missing, a magic from the early days that just wasn't grabbing me anymore. This magic felt continually diminished on Long Night's Journey into Day, and I started to resign myself to the fact that maybe the band was only going to have that 3-album salvo as their legacy. But hope springs eternal, to coin a phrase. I had honestly drifted in the 5 years it's now been since we've had new material, and I hadn't really listened to the band that much apart from the occasional binge of The Fullness of Time once every 6 months or so. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised to see that there was a new album announced by the band, and now here we stand with Tom England's second shot at fronting the semi-legendary progressive metal stalwarts, and I'm pleased to say, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I mean, no, this still isn't the reclamation of the good old days that I might have once naively hoped for, but it's done a number of remarkable things for me that I never would have expected. The first of which is to give me a newfound appreciation of England as a vocalist. So, quick hot take for context. I have honestly never much cared for Evergrey. I first found Tom England through, surprise surprise, Ayreon, and obviously I had to check out his main band after that, but what I found simply didn't grip me at all. I mean, it was perfectly fine, serviceable and pleasant enough to listen to, but even with multiple exposures of their most lauded records, like In Search of Truth, Recreation Day and The Inner Circle, I just couldn't break that glass ceiling. I mean, I tried as well listening to the most recent album, 2022's A Heartless Portrait of the Orphean Testament, and once again I felt no spark, no passion, no joy. So, given my ambivalence towards England's bread and butter, and my shameless fanboying of Ray Alder, it really shouldn't come as a surprise that I was a little bit bitter about the new microphone wielder of Redemption. But against all odds, I'm starting to come around. I would honestly say that this is, for me at least, the best that England has ever sounded on any project he's ever been involved in. His vocals are thick, warming, passionate, and dripping with a personality that I just wasn't getting before. Now, I have no idea what the variable metric going on here is, but somehow he has done it. Mr. Tom England has finally made me appreciate him. Hooray! I mean, I'm not going to go out and say that I've thrown away my Alder cap and donned the Stetson of England, but I have enjoyed his contributions on I Am the Storm immensely, and in doing so have found my jimmies thoroughly rustled in the best possible way. So, that is the big elephant in the room out of the way. But what about the rest of the experience? I mean, obviously a vocalist is only one cog in the machine of a band, after all. And I have to say that I Am the Storm is a record of some superb album of the year quality peaks, but is unfortunately let down by some of the same issues that I had with 2011's This Mortal Coil. Okay, so let's get the negativity out of the way first and highlight my concerns and or problems with the record. The year is 2023, and yet Redemption are still treating us dear listeners to no less than 3 angsty, try-hard, edgy, early 2000s Dream Theater clone songs, and I cannot fathom as to why this is. Album opener and title track I Am the Storm, 7 minutes from sunset, and Resilience have some explaining to do. I mean, okay, let's dial it back a second. These songs aren't objectively bad. They just feel completely out of time in the worst possible way. I'd wager if the band fired these out in like 2004 or something, I'd be lapping this up like an 8-year-old with a double helping of Strawberry Angel Delight. But to my 36-year-old ears, they're formulaic, overtly guitar-driven at the expense of all other instruments, melodically simplistic, and with lyrics that evoke the feeling of a 14-year-old practicing a diss speech in front of his bedroom mirror. I mean, for crying out loud, you have a sample of Walter White from Breaking Bad giving his "I am the one who knocks" speech in the title track. It's all just a little bit juvenile, and it frustrates me to see a talented bunch of musicians like this plopping what feel like lazy copy-pasted songs from an era of forgotten progressive metal onto an album that is simultaneously occupied by some of the literal best songs of the band's career. These 3 songs aren't completely without merit, mind you. They do still have some quality moments on them. Some of the riffs are infectiously memorable, Englund's vocal delivery is commanding and impactful in spite of the lyrics, and the times that keyboardist Vikram Shankar gets to shine are amongst the best parts of the album. But we'll touch more on his contributions in a minute or two. Right, with that done, let's do what I actually like doing, talking about the goods. And thankfully, I Am the Storm's goods definitely outweigh its bads. The third track, Remember the Dawn, is where things finally start to get interesting, and we are given a look back at the band that I remember Redemption being when I first fell in love with them. Strong keyboard melodies, interesting time signatures, and creative musicality finally rule the day, and the predictable radio rock of the first 2 songs is swiftly forgotten. It honestly should come as no surprise to me that it is the longer songs on the album that are the best ones. Redemption are, after all, a prog band, and the genre always gleams brightest when the music has a chance to evolve and breathe. The band finally calms down a little, cools off the gas pedal with the relentless schlock rock and endlessly aggressive guitars, and brings in some greater subtlety, not only in the instrumentation but in the lyricism as well. Remember the Dawn? Remember the Good Old Days might be a more appropriate name, as this track was the first beacon of hope that I Am the Storm really gave to me, and showed me that the band I loved was still in there. Things keep on getting better and better too, as the emotional depiction of light follows up, and is easily among my favourite songs on the album. Primarily written by keyboardist Vikram Shankar, I told you we'd get to him in greater detail. This serves itself up as the most mellow, relaxed and beautiful song on the album, and really embraces the progressive half of the progressive metal. The compositions here are incredibly lush and expansive and give me familiar chills to the multi-part final suite from The Fullness of Time. Shankar should absolutely rise up in your modern prog keyboardist lists based on his performances on this record. There are numerous times where his playing reminds me of Derek Sherinian, but amped up with the virtuosity of Jordan Rudess, forming a kind of best of both scenario, and he is 100% my MVP on the album. Needless to say, I'll be paying very close attention to this chap, and I'll be very keen to see what he gets up to over the coming years. The centerpieces of the record are the 14-minute and 12-minute long pieces respectively of Action at a Distance and All This Time and Not Enough. These are pure premium slices of Redemption at their bombastic best, each throwing in everything, including the kitchen sink, to create what can only be described as near-perfect representatives of just how good progressive metal can sound in 2023. I mean, yes, they lack the quirkiness and off-kilter structuring of bands like Taken and songs like Elephants Never Forget off their most recent album Fauna, but what these mini-epics have in spades is a feeling of legacy, and paying respect to the past greats. While the shorter songs on this album felt like they were songs out of time in the worst way, this pair of hard hitters feels like songs out of time in the best way. They duel against each other perfectly, encompassing all of the things that made me fall in love with the genre, and reminding me that even after so long, a band with the chops and past experience that Redemption has can still surprise and delight me. There are some odd decisions on the structuring of this album, though, as the penultimate song on the album is the cover of Genesis' Turn It On Again, which is fine. It's far from the worst prog metal cover I've ever heard, but it does kind of stick out like a sore thumb, acting as this kind of weird speed bump between the two mini-epics. Yeah, I'm struggling to understand the logic of its placement in the track listing, especially as the album also concludes with a bonus track, which is another cover song, and this time Peter Gabriel gets the Redemption treatment with Red Rain. Even more baffling is that there are 2 songs, original compositions and not covers, that are exclusive to the vinyl version of the album. Quite why these 2 songs were not included on the main album, with the covers being relegated to the vinyl, feels like a bewildering decision made by a record label executive who genuinely has no idea what he's actually doing. There's also an alternative mix of the emotional depiction of light that's slotted in just before the Peter Gabriel cover, and for my money, it's the far superior version of the song, but your mileage may or may not vary on this. So, what else can I say about Redemption's I Am the Storm? In case you hadn't figured it out by now, this is a record of dramatic leaps in terms of quality. There's the predictable rock songs, short, lacking in the creativity I've come to expect from the band, and then there's the longer, more adventurous tracks that showcase a band who've clearly been saving some of the best bang for their buck until this late stage of their career. It's not often that I get to listen to a record this wildly inconsistent, and while this is frustrating from the perspective of a listener, it's been great from a reviewing perspective, as I've had lots of spicy takes and controversial opinions of which to pepper throughout this video, which is always fun. Ultimately though, I would say that I did have a great time with I Am the Storm. Even the weaker tracks on the album are ultimately still fun, just to take as they are, you know? It's only really when taken in context with the rest of the record that their weakness becomes inherent and visible. And it's mostly because when I Am the Storm is good, it is career-defining good, which only serves to make the weaker moments more noticeable and annoying. So, yeah, I would comfortably say that I would be happy to recommend that you buy this one digitally. It's a step up from just a streaming recommendation, as the emotional depiction of light, action at a distance, and all this time and not enough are honestly just so good by themselves that they alone make the price of entry worth it. The weaker moments, like I say, they're still serviceable, but it's kinda hard to get excited by them within the scope of the album as a whole. However, that being said, welcome back, Redemption. I've honestly missed you, and I'm kinda glad you finally got me to enjoy Tom England after all these years of trying. So guys, obviously this is all of course just my opinion, as you know. If you have listened to this record, I'd love to know what you thought about it by telling me all about it in the comments down there. If there's anything else you've listened to in 2023 you think I would dig, think I'd get a vibe check on, please let me know about it. Want to hear it, love it, let's go. If you like this video, please do share it around with anyone who you would think would enjoy it. Please, of course, as always, do consider subscribing for more content. We're nearly at 400, how exciting! If you really like what I do, please also consider clicking the coffee link in my description box down below. And until next time, guys, keep your rhyme signatures odd.